Folks, my name's Galen Lamphere-Englund. I know a number of you over the years. These days I'm wearing two hats, mostly at the moment. One with the Christchurch Call Foundation, where I am team lead together with a lot of my lovely colleagues, focused on the intersection of violent misogyny and violent extremism, especially in online spaces and across gaming platforms. I've also helped to found and run something called the Extremism and Gaming Research Network for the last several years, which focuses on the intersection of harms across gaming spheres. These days, the EGRN is up to over 170 individuals, 30 organizations globally, and we've recently moved into King's College London, so we have a nice home here in the city. Fundamentally, we focus on understanding how terrorist and violent extremist organizations exploit gaming communities and services, and to discover new ways to use gaming for good. What have we seen? Well, just as a quick reminder, I hope all of you are familiar with games. How many of you have ever played a video game in the room? Great, that's about right. Well, there's about 3.42 billion gamers across the world, including most of you in the room. Congratulations, you're part of a very esteemed cohort. Revenue is enormous. Gaming is huge. Figures for last year were in the ballpark of $200 billion USD, and most importantly, when we think about potential for exploitation risk cases, around 90% of children in countries where they have access to internet-connected devices play video games of some form. Fastest growth in gamers year on year is in the Middle East and North Africa. The next billion gamers, I'm quite fond of saying, will be African. That's very exciting. Gaming is a great thing. There's a lot of pro-social benefits to modern video games. Finding belief, identity, belonging, purpose, meaning, all things that people are looking to increasingly chatbot friends for, but also that we look for in terms of identification and developing long-term relationships in a group. One quick footnote, all of you who played games, I hope you're aware that depictions of violence in video games do not cause offline violence. See me after if you want to have a longer chat on that. That's not to say there aren't cases in which violence can be instrumentalized or depictions of propaganda can be used to socialize, recruit, radicalize, or fundraise, but violence in and of itself in a video game does not cause offline violence, whether used with AI or not, as we'll come to in a moment. Where do video games sit at the moment? Where does this relate to our work on violent misogyny? Broadly speaking, inside ecosystems of hybrid violence. When we think about new cases, from the assassination attempt that we were just talking about to Tumbler Ridge, we're often seeing engagement with a hybridized ecosystem of online harms. This is a picture from the New Zealand Classification Office that I'm rather fond of, that I think puts this together nicely. But the normalization of harm occurring from violent misogyny, sexual and gender-based violence online, to mass violence, school massacre ideation we often see as an obsession or a fixation in recent perpetrators who, especially from NVE backgrounds. Tech-facilitated abuse, sometimes with 764 or COM, relations with grooming, childhood sexual abuse and exploitation, etc. Why does this matter for gaming? In many recent profiles of attackers, we see immersion in online ecosystems across gaming platforms and services, and often intersecting with many of these different harm verticals. When we've done polling at the EGRN, we found that around 33% of gamers have been exposed to violent extremist content of some form or another. 16% have been solicited to donate to a violent extremist organization or individual, and around 75% witness targeted harassment on a regular basis. This forms a fertile ecosystem for normalization of hatred and toxicity, but more importantly, allows for the exploitation of more nefarious actors. What does this play into? Recently, I redid some analysis of attacks since 2019, since the Christchurch mosque attack. We've seen a particular increase in copycat tactics, techniques, and procedures. In coding attacks that have resulted in loss of life, there have been at least 35 either terrorist or violent extremist incidents or adjacent ones that have involved gamified elements or a strong nexus to gaming platforms. That's resulted in at least 173 people killed and around 380 injured across the world since 2019 alone. I call your attention to 2 points on this slide. One is the mean perpetrator age, 21. This is going down year on year. And the youngest perpetrator at the age of 13. Also, the number of school attacks, whether they involve an ideological component. Increasingly they do, but often as window dressing. or where they don't. We see younger perpetrators socialized across gaming services and committing acts of offline violence. 6 ways we see exploitation taking place: new games and mods, terrorist groups or individuals making their own games, making their own modifications for existing games, using gaming culture references. Games are great for propaganda because they are pop culture. Using in-game chats and functions, and this is very interesting, we look at future implications, the socialization aspects of chatbot-driven in-game comms, the gamification of violence, from live streaming of attacks designed to look like video games forward, to potential for financing and money laundering. We're seeing more of this take place at the moment, but that's a bit of a sidebar conversation. What are the AI implications? Well, in short, there's not a ton of AI implications as yet, but the near-term horizon is very, very interesting. Around 80% of gaming studios and devs are using generative AI already in the production of games. Makes things a lot faster. There's a lot of pushback from this across gaming communities. Feeling that AI slop is coming for games has a lot of people up in arms. But if you're a nefarious actor, there's some wonderful things you can do. You can rapidly make your own games now. They're not particularly great, but there's an app called GDevelop, for example, where you can build your own game in under a day. So when we look at the quality of terrorist or violent extremist games built so far, they're not usually particularly high quality, right? But they form a hook for a lot of other propaganda streams. You build a game, and then you channel other people through it, whether that's through TikTok Reels, or in the case of Indonesia, through IG Reels. We've seen illustrative examples where the game is made, the quality is not great, but the gameplay creates a long stack of propagandistic purposes to channel people through to either a recruitment pathway or to a broader group identity process. So, for example, you make the game on GDevelop, you push it out via IG Reels and TikTok, then within that you have an outlink or a link to a Telegram group, then from that you link people into a Signal group where you continue their conversation, or to a Discord channel where they want to begin to engage that gaming content more. You then use that as an anchor for a wider stack of a communication campaign. Real-world creation engines around the corner, the ability to create immersive ecosystems inside the world of your choosing. We also see in-game NPC, non-person characters being built. That's where our chatbots come into play. People already build intense relationships with games. They're emotional. The ability to actually craft in-game chatbots that have either the potential to socialize individuals to violence, whether intentional or unintentional, to your point, Kai, is very real. The more we introduce realistic chatbot experiences in games and parasocial experiences in games, we'll see both inadvertent use cases of this as well as direct targeted ones. Lastly, there's a lot of voice mods we see. There's a wide swath of deeply misogynistic modifications for games, removing female protagonists, for example, replacing with male protagonists, removing indigenous characters, replacing with members of the clan. We see a wide range of kind of purposes here where you're using AI tools to create the back-end switches for games or gaming content. What do? I'm fond of saying we need to better prevent, we need to better detect bad things when they happen, and we need to react better after they take place. There's a lot of great things that we're working on at the moment at the Christchurch Call Foundation. Several wonderful colleagues in the room will be talking later about our work on open source tools for using AI tools for good. I will just make a quick note on our work on Catalyst, the intersection of violent misogyny, gender-based violence online, and violent extremism, to say that we're engaging actively within gaming spaces. Our colleagues within our consortium over at ISD are building inoculation campaigns. Our friends at Peril are doing offline mentorship with esports teams. But on the AI side, which I think is really quite exciting, our friends at Medan are building open source classifiers to detect both violent extremist and technologically facilitated gender-based violence content in low-resource languages. So in Swahili and in Levantine Arabic for the first time, at least at scale. We're also then using those to create longer-term classifiers that can help surface people into potential help programs, like Emily was discussing a moment ago. Once we detect patterns, how do we help connect people with better resources? Towards that end, we're happily launching a Gaming Safely curricula for parents and educators, as well as a community moderator set of trainings in 4 countries, starting with the UK next week. If you're interested in joining our pilot, let us know. Those will, in the next iteration, have guardrailed chatbots to provide conversational tools to parents and educators, as well as connecting with helpline resources for those who are in moments of crisis. how to better service people when they're in need, and use AI tools where applicable to better link them with appropriate resources. Lots more going on. Would love to talk more about it, but I'll try to keep things relatively brief to allow for a conversation. Long way of saying, exploitation in gaming via AI tools, not too much yet, coming down the pipeline very, very quickly though, and I suspect we'll see a massive uptick in some of these exploits over the coming 12 to 36 months. We also have some great stuff and work to try and improve prevention outcomes, and I'll leave it there. Thank you all so much.